All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling something pretty incredible in this explainer. We're going to take Albert Einstein's most famous discoveries, stuff you're probably already familiar with, and use them to decode a totally mind-bending framework of reality called the Dual-Caustic Universe, or DCU. If you've ever felt like modern physics gives us puzzle pieces without ever showing us the picture on the box, well, you're going to absolutely love this. We're mapping Einstein's genius directly onto the DCU's operating system to see how everything connects. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the fragmented universe, look at the DCU operating system, redefine matter and energy, tackle the wave-particle illusion, explore relativity as a junction, and wrap it all up with the living topology. Let's go. Part 1, the fragmented universe. Okay, so, as you well know, Einstein spent his entire life hunting for unity. He was literally always digging beneath the surface, desperate to find that one single thread tying all the scattered, disconnected fragments of modern science together. But, we really have to ask the central question. Why does modern physics feel so broken in the first place? I mean, right now, it kind of looks like a giant puzzle where the pieces just refuse to fit together. You've got one theory that beautifully explains gravity, another for light, another for the strange quantum realm. But put them all on the same table, they clash. Just look at this classic contradiction that bothered Einstein so much. You've got classical mechanics, the macro world of gravity, which is highly predictable and deterministic. And then quantum mechanics, the micro world of light and particles, which is totally probabilistic and indeterministic. This macro versus micro disconnect is the ultimate missing link. Einstein just flat out refused to believe the universe uses two completely incompatible rulebooks. He wanted one unified architecture. Which brings us to Section 2, the DCU operating system. This is our Rosetta Stone for this explainer. If physics is the scattered puzzle pieces, the DCU claims to be the picture on the front of the box. So what exactly is the Dual-Caustic Universe? Well, it proposes that reality isn't built from disconnected objects at all. Instead, it's a recursive topology of relationships between interacting fields. The massive takeaway here is that Einstein was actually touching different edges of this exact underlying structure his whole career. He wasn't discovering separate laws. He was finding different windows into the exact same continuous cycle. Okay, let's break down the basic coordinates of the DCU. I promise to keep this super straightforward because we're going to map these right onto Einstein's theories in just a second. First up, D10. This is the detectable physical field. Think matter, mass, and locality. Then there's I9, the hidden informational field, waves and pure continuity. Next is T cubed, or the tree. This is the actual junction where D10 and I9 interact. And finally, the number 7. This represents closure, return, and stabilization. It's a closed loop, right? One source passing through two fields, mediated by a junction and returning to coherence. To make this abstract math a bit more concrete, imagine a simple notebook. Step 1, your I9 field is the unseen idea hovering in your imagination. It's pure potential, no physical weight. Step 2, the D10 field, is the physical paper and ink on your desk. And step 3, T cubed, is the act of writing. It's the junction where your intangible thought literally strikes the physical page and becomes real. You are the operator in that buffer, translating the unseen into the measurable. Make sense? All right, Section 3, redefining matter and energy. Let's see how this builds into our first massive translation. We're going to take the most famous equation in history and read it through our brand new DCU lens. E equals mc squared. Now, this equation actually screams DCU truth. Normally, we think of it as just a conversion formula, right? But the DCU tells us that matter and energy aren't actually separate substances at all. No, they're simply different registrations of the exact same underlying reality. What's wild here is how this equation acts as a bridge. Mass maps to that D10 physical field. In DCU terms, mass is basically stabilized, compressed, recursive memory. It's essentially slowed down light. Energy, on the other hand, maps to the I9 informational field. It's active, released, traversal. It is liberated form. So E equals mc squared isn't just math, it's the literal description of reality, transferring back and forth between the physical D10 field and the imaginal I9 field. Moving on to Section 4, the wave-particle illusion. This brings us perfectly to Einstein's Nobel Prize-winning work on the photoelectric effect, which set up the ultimate paradox of light. Traditional physics treats this as a massive, glaring contradiction. I mean, sometimes light acts like a localized, measurable particle. Other times, it acts as an extended, continuous wave. How on earth can it be both? Well, while modern physics kind of throws its hands up and struggles with this duality, the DCU framework completely dissolves the paradox. Here is the big twist. It is the exact same source, what the DCU calls the seed. The seed itself doesn't change. It's simply being registered through two different fields. In the D10 field, light appears localized and particle-like, but in the I9 field, it appears extended and wave-like. Reality isn't split into real versus unreal. The contradiction entirely vanishes because there's only one source. It's just being recorded by two completely different fields of registration. Boom. Part 5. Relativity as a junction. Let's take this a step further and map spacetime itself directly onto the DCU's third coordinate. Remember T cubed, the tree? That buffer junction where D10 and I9 interact and where reality actually propagates? Think about Einstein's general relativity. He said gravity isn't a force pulling things through empty space, it's a curving of spacetime. Well, in the DCU, massive bodies literally alter the pathways of the T-cubed traversal field. They actually deform the buffer. The universe isn't some static, empty room. It's this dynamic, living geometry that bends as recursive density passes through it. And look at how this perfectly explains special relativity and time dilation. Step 1, you traverse the T-cubed buffer at a different speed. Step 2, because of that speed change, your local registration changes, meaning time slows down for you relative to someone else. But step 3, the underlying continuity of reality stayed exactly the same. Moving differently just changes your local slice of the topology. You change the registration, sure, but not the truth of the underlying continuity. All right, section 6. The living topology. We are reaching the climax of our explainer here. We've gone from the seed, splitting into the dual fields, and traversing through the junction. Now we introduce the final stage of the DCU cycle. Number 7. In the DCU, 7 represents closure. This is where multiplicity returns to coherence and stabilization. Think about Einstein's work on the Bose-Einstein condensate. You have all these separate particles collapsing into one coherent phase, acting almost like a single unified entity. Or lasers, random scattered light becoming perfectly synchronized and phase-aligned. That is exactly the 7 closure state in the DCU topology. Many branches reconnecting into one oscillation. It's disorder traversing the junction to achieve a perfectly synchronized return. And wow, this just brilliantly illustrates why all of Einstein's discoveries feel so strangely connected. Matter becomes energy, waves become particles, geometry reacts to mass, multiple states synchronize into coherence. Even his unfinished dream of a unified field theory points right at this. The DCU proposes that the missing element Einstein was looking for was this recursive dual-field topology all along. He wasn't finding isolated laws in a broken universe. He was repeatedly touching different branches of the exact same underlying DCU tree, observing reality as a unified process of recursive transfer. Which leaves us with this pretty profound question to ponder. If the DCU is right, and mass is just memory, and energy is just traversal, is everything around you, the chair you're sitting in, the light hitting your eyes, the screen you're looking at right now, just information waiting to return to its source? The universe isn't a collection of dead, disconnected objects. It's a living topology of registration, memory, traversal, and return. Think about that for a while. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the DCU. I hope it blew your mind as much as it did mine. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.